Once again to the WGLEU. We are into Play Week 6, first of this week. Of course, there are two shows, and I'm joined by the usual suspects. It's myself, Ollie, and Melly, all the way down on the end, to provide you all the coverage you need today for the World of Tanks. But before we get started in today's show, Ollie, you had a little message for the community out there.
Yeah, so I'm sure many of you have already heard. We had some very sad news on Wednesday. A good friend and an ex-player from Freefall and Drooling Leprechauns, Largo, passed away in a very tragic motorcycle accident. I mean, I don't want to talk about it too much, but it's a small community, the Wargaming League. It's a small, tight-knit bunch, and when we lose someone like that, this is the first time, obviously, you know, it hits us hard, and you know, our deepest condolences from Wargaming and ESL go out to him and his family. And yeah, I mean, it's super distressing news, but you know, we're happy that he's had, you know, such a good life so far. He's a great guy. I met him in Warsaw, and I think this show today is going to be in memory of him.
Well, let's make it a good one, and just to keep people up to date with what happened in the previous shows, let's take a little look back at those 3 games that we had just last week. So to kick off, it was a little bit one-sided, to say the least, but Kazna picking up a 5-1 over No Mercy. Yeah,
the first 2 games were pretty one-sided. I mean, Kazna crew look amazing. They're really on form, unlike previous seasons. Virtus Pro as well, just super on form, did very well against Penta. A couple of interesting matches there, but overall a pretty one-sided match. So last one was Ding versus Utopia. That's really where it started to heat up. Very good start from Ding, but Utopia are just so good on Ghost Town that they managed to bring it back, and finally Ding managed to close out the match, but it was a really good match, and definitely one you have to look back at.
Well, I think there's a couple of points we can raise off the back of this as well in regards to the way it affected the rankings, but we'll get to that in a moment. For you out there who actually missed the show, we have a nice little highlight to keep you guys in the loop.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, from lovely, warm Cologne. My name is Mitch Leslie. This is Oliver Maxfield, and this is the WGLEU Season 1. Today's matches will be kicking off with Kazna Crew versus No Mercy. Oh, you're all fish there. Nice work. Gets a track on towards Negan. It's going to slow the advance of this column of heavy tanks being pushed in by No Mercy. Ilian will be the first line of defense. Then Yuzny, then FKK Schnitzel. He does have that auto loader there as well. He's going to be ready to let that go at any moment. But Ilian does drop down. The combined force of those heavies is going to push him right over. And FKK Schnitzel going to back away. So is Yuzny. Hiver is trying to come up and defend here. And Kazna Crew, the health points are in the balance. It's super close, and they know they need to bring some reinforcements in. And Rafiq gets the killing blow on towards FKK Schnitzel. No Mercy coming forward with confidence. Here come the T-54s thundering towards the rest of those tanks. Ilian is there, and Hiver. Ilian doesn't really want a close range fight. That's not what his tank's made for. So Kazna might just try and flex back around the corner, but Fussy is getting chunked down. Yamto's taking damage. Matt Piel's taking damage. Ilian bounces a shot as well off his head, and this is working fairly well for Kazna right now. They're just pushing and pulling No Mercy around the corner. A bit of do-si-do, walking him up the garden path, in fact, and look at them drop like flies.
No Mercy should have just pushed all the way around. They should have gone for the overmatch 4 versus 3, but they didn't. They're very tentative. They're very wary, and that's cost them dearly.
Next game, Virtus Pro versus Penta. It's not just Breakneck and Just Cause doing the work, it's also Bishop from behind, and Coca-Cola is also in a spot to get some shots down. Bishop gets the finish on towards the dead zone. Now Fluky and Raging Potato are left on their own. They push out now. This could be very dangerous, especially if the Raging Potato is going to miss shots like that one, and Just Cause is going to make Fluky pay. Breakneck is also going to bring his own brand of retribution, and Penta are running out of what? They ran out of health. That happened really quickly, actually. Especially with 2 IS-3s barreling down the hill, and Kusok as well, he's going to be slugging his way down. Additionally, now look at this, it's just going to be a mess. Virtus Pro has sprung the trap. This is kind of working out for them right now. And those 354s are just going to have to hold on. There's a bit of support coming from Killer Pit in the back, and same with Hacker, but they've got to focus fire right now. Penta has split their forces into 3 units, especially. Fluky manages to get Karit, but it's starting to look pretty grim.
I can't believe Breakneck actually got that shot onto the dead zone. That was great play by him. I don't know, I think Penta are doing okay here. They can still win this one, but Breakneck obviously wins that 1 versus 1, and you know, Fluky needs to get in this game.
A little bit splintered right now, but here come the Borsies. They're doing some work, and oh, there it is. That IS-3 gets double tapped down, and that's exactly what we're waiting to see from these Borsies. And for the most part, the Dead Zone and Rage and Potato have avoided any sort of retribution in terms of damage. They'll be able to come up for another shot. This could be scary. Breakneck might be in trouble.
They're definitely in trouble. Breakneck's down and out, so is Kusok.
Oh!
Those Sporsics are just absolute beasts. I mean, seriously, they just two-shot the IS-3, and Virtus Pro now down 4 tanks, and Penta have only lost 1. I think this one is my match of tonight. Ding Utopia, of course.
Trying to collapse on towards Diplomat, and it might just work out. Wicked is taking a lot of damage, but Ding has really been forced quite low. Hulknik will get the kill on towards Wicked, though, and maybe free up a little bit of space for Ding, but they don't have a lot of wriggle room. Shockish will try and do some work on that T-37 from range, but it's just Mr. Rakar and Hulknik in a bit of a final stand here against Utopia, pushing towards them. 3 versus 3. 2 IS-3s versus 254 lightweights, and throw some lights in the mix as well. The T-37, the LTTB, which does go down, and Dinger turned this on its head really quickly. Great work as well from the side for Shockish, continuing getting the constant damage, but Hulknik and Mr. Rakar are playing this to perfection.
Absolutely amazing work from them. Mr. Rakar does actually bounce that shell, will find the second one. Hulknik cleans up, but finally Mr. Rakar, finally Meritorious get into the fight. Stoic does go down, but they have the higher ground.
They have only 4,000 hit points to work with, though, and see a lot of damage going towards everyone, to be honest. Shooky forced to back away with a big 764. This is going to be an absolute mess. We don't know who's going to come out on top of this one, but Ding is behind still. That force of tanks from Utopia pushing up that hill, holding on. Diplomat goes down. Shocky's still just looking on in dismay, trying to assist, but don't know what he can do. Make Money takes a big 1,000 hit points worth of damage, but will it be enough? Wicked coming forward. Hunterzord does take down Meritorious now, and only 3 tanks are left standing for Ding, and one of them is poor old Shockish off in the distance. Utopia the ones that have to make the move. The onus is on them, and Ding have sort of beaten them at every turn right now. Meritorious is going to find Papa Pow in, and that, of course, is a little bit less flexibility and one less gun on the game for Utopia. I think they're in trouble here, Ollie.
They're in very big trouble. A bounce there from Papa onto the side of the T-54.
Shukyu and Mac Money, the last 2 standing. Oh, it's a hope for Utopia that is soon going to be snuffed out as Diplomat pulls around a corner and takes him out. And Shukyu, of course, hanging on. Utopia, what a fight back. Brilliant work for them. Getting those 3 rounds on the try on Ghost Town to bring it back to the overtime. But unfortunately, it just wasn't enough. The execution for Ding was fantastic there. They played that defense side out so well. Brilliant work from them. Well-deserved victory, a tiebreaker nonetheless. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we look forward to having your company next week. But until then, good night and good game.
And that performance from Utopia against Ding just brought this whole ranking system even closer together. From, I think it's like 2nd to 6th, one game could change everything. And that's the perfect point of the season. We're over the halfway marker. What really stands out to you here?
Well, I think Kazakhru and Supreme are chasing. Kazakhru is obviously chasing Supreme. Supreme are starting to get themselves quite far ahead of the pack. Virtus.pro needed that last win against Penta, and they successfully delivered, so they're getting back into this game. I guess, you know, all the kind of ambiguity around ASAP with some of their roster changes is really what I'm looking forward to seeing. Of course, because of reschedules, we won't be able to see them this week, but that could be very interesting. And I think Ding are finally getting into their stride and could actually make their way up that ranking as well.
So the one thing I want to point out to people at home today that we were discussing earlier, how important clean wins are today for especially Synergy and Tornado Rocks. 3 points to them will put them so much further up. They may not be able to overtake Supreme, but they'll be certainly in a really strong position. That takes nothing away from Supreme's game against Strong, which is obviously coming out today in 2nd place. But still, these guys want to make sure they're as close to the top as possible, pretty much. And that's going to take us on to today's games. Let's give you a little look towards that one, because the 3 games coming up, they may not seem phenomenal on paper, but the points coming out of this will be highly important.
Yeah, I think Synergy, as you mentioned, Tornado having a kind of chase at the moment on that leaderboard, and I think whoever managed to get the clean 3 points will, you know, secure themselves pretty far up that leader table, and possibly in like 3rd, 4th place, which would be obviously very good. I think they're pretty even matches. I mean, Penta and Wuso are not too far away from each other. Strong's team of Supreme. Strong's been really unpredictable. Sometimes they do very well against, you know, for instance, No Mercy, where they 5-0 them. Sometimes they do very badly.
Yeah, and we're going to go into a lot more detail about these head-to-head in just a moment's time. But of course, it's not just about us here in the studio. It's about you guys at home. And we have the beautiful Melly to tell us exactly how people at home can get involved with us here in the studio.
Thank you, Lauren. Welcome from my side as well. And yes, as Lauren mentioned, it's actually all about you. We're doing this for you. And so we'll give you the platform to actually tell us what you think about the games, about the teams, about us. Maybe use the hashtag WGLEU over at Twitter. And of course, follow us. Follow us at twitter.com/WGLEU. It's always the same. And people, not only that we provide you with live updates during the matches, even if you can't follow the stream, so you will still know what's going on the service. Isn't that awesome? Also on facebook.com/WGLE, where you can hand in your predictions and votes for each matchup and get a chance of winning bonus codes. And we actually already have people voting, and it's a solid 73% for Penta.
What?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Hey, the
Obviously got
Penta
plenty
fans are out in force today. They're not messing around, are they? But, of course, Synergy on paper, substantially bigger favourites, Melly.
Absolutely.
Do you think those votes are going to change?
I don't know what's happening, but we know that the way that the community has its own ways,
True.
and they sometimes are right.
Yeah, they're
well,
pretty
most
good
of the
at it,
time.
yeah.
So,
But it's early, right? It's still early. They can still carry on voting. The Synergy fans, maybe a little bit later, coming into the stream and then getting their votes in, right?
it just started, so people, if you haven't voted yet, head over to Facebook and join our vote. As already mentioned, just click the team vote button right above the timeline to get forwarded to an app where you have to choose your favorite team and then predict the exact scoreline in a little text field below. And by doing so, yeah, you might get a chance of winning a bonus code which contains 8 days of premium and 500 gold. And yeah, that's absolutely something you should participate in. And the earlier you vote, the higher your chances are, because the vote is open throughout the first map. It will close right before the second map, so the breaks between the maps can be used for voting.
Okay.
But I don't recommend that, because a lot of people already joined that vote at that time, and your chances are getting
Pretty slim,
drastically lower. Yes.
So get
First
those,
come, first serve.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Get those thoughts through to us nice and early. You guys at home, you're opinionated most of the time, or at least Carmen is. So you should follow his lead, get your predictions through to us as soon as possible. And there's some goodies on the line, I hear, that we may even bring out a little later, because you guys go a little wild for that. But anyway.
That's true. We saw what happened the last Playdays. Just to mention.
We don't talk about this anymore.
Mitch is not here. We could easily take advantage of that and abuse him. I
We'll do it on Thursday's show. Yeah, but Ollie's here too. But no, we'll work on that for Thursday's show. I think we can always bring up some nice Mitch memes.
Yeah.
I think that's the new thing we can work on.
Burning Australian flags again, maybe.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
What? The flame, literally.
You all see my retweet on this flag being
here's a
burned?
line. Lauren and I kind of balance on the line usually, but you don't only step over it, you just jump head forwards.
Just a long jump over it. No,
Yeah.
but I retweeted. I made a joke like,
retweeted
okay,
a burning
you could win a Type 59 if you make a meme of Mitch burning an Australian flag. And someone did that. You know, the Titanic scene when he's at the front. He's got New Zealand behind him. I don't know who that is. Who's behind on Titanic? Is it?
It's Leo.
Leo behind and whatever name's up front. So Leo's behind with a New Zealand flag. Mitch has got the Australian flag burning, and with the Australian as well. So it's a good retweet. That's the kind of thing we're looking for, definitely.
And did he get a code?
No, it was a joke. I don't have a Type 59 code. What do you think I am? Like a millionaire? I don't have that. If I had that, I would put it straight on eBay. A load of money. No, I'm joking.
He'd never do that. He'd give it out to the community because he loves you guys.
Yeah, of course, yes.
But still, let's start talking about game one. We can always bring Melly back in if we need some more memes. The Melly memes will be featuring as well. But let's talk about game
Melly
one.
memes.
Shush you. You have no say in the matter. Synergy up against Penta. Now, we know the two maps, don't we? Starting off on Mines, if I'm not mistaken, and then Himmelsdorf. So let's talk about at least Mines to begin with here between these two.
Yeah, so, I mean, Mines has been one of Penta's favourites. Not the greatest track record. They've had a couple of good results, though. You know, won 50% on the defence, 30% on overall. Not winning the attacking round so far. But I think, you know, Penta's going back and back to this map. They seem to like it a lot. They seem to feel comfortable in it for some reason, even though they got thrashed by Virtus Pro last match day 4-0 on Mines.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. We'll have to see how that one works out. Of course, very aggressive with those T-54s. They like playing around the hill. But I think it's a map they feel comfortable on, and that's why they're picking it. And then, of course, Synergy going for Himmelsdorf. A logical choice for them as well, after being Virtus Pro on it. On the defensive side as well, I think they can be pretty comfortable.
So let's at least discuss maybe the win conditions here for both teams and what will equate to them picking up the game, because obviously Penta needs a lot more, in theory, if we look at the rankings, to be able to pull off a victory here than Synergy. So if you're in Penta's shoes, what needs to go right on the first map to allow you to get to the second? What do they need to do here?
Well, I feel Penta's right on the cusp of actually overcoming the issues with their roster and the general loss of the Killzor. I think they could actually be very effective on mines after so many games. Obviously, 10 rounds played on this map, but they just need to go in kicky. You know, they can't let Synergy have any breathing room at the start. They need to be very aggressive and, you know, get straight into their flow, straight into their energy. I think they need to go 3-1. After mines, I think, you know, Himmelsdorf, Synergy is kind of synonymous. I think the 3-1 scoreline would give Penta just enough to actually move into Himmelsdorf with some confidence and, you know, either win it straight out, like a 5-1, or, you know, a 5-3 or 5-2, or at least take it to 4-4 and you can steal a point of Synergy that way.
Right, so that's kind of what would happen for Penta to do well, and there's always the theory behind if you annoy Stalker enough, he might snap, and it actually does kind of work. He's a very emotional player sometimes. Yeah,
he can make his team tilt very quickly, and I think that's Penta's strategy here. They want to make Synergy just roll all the way down that hill and keep on rolling right to the bottom. So I would say it's a good strategy. I mean, for Synergy to win, I think they need to keep in mind that Penta is an old and inexperienced team. Also, Penta have played mines a lot. Synergy played it a little bit, 8 times. Not the greatest track record either. Apart from the attacking side, they seem to be pretty effective. But I think they need to be playing for Himmelsdorf. They need to go 2-2, or like, you know, getting an advantage would be great as well on mines, but 2-2 would be okay. Move on to Himmelsdorf, move into their comfort zone, and just go out and win it there. But still, I do think Penta is in a good position right now. I think it's the obvious choice to go for Synergy, but I honestly think Penta has a real chance here.
I think if there's an underdog position that they could work from, this is it. But I think we'll see if they have that opportunity by the first map. As you said, they have to almost go in with that advantage into Himmelsdorf to always weather that just percentage of better play that Synergy will be able to bring. They're more experienced, and they're very, very strong on Himmelsdorf. It may not be their best track record. I believe they're about 8-5, which isn't huge. There's probably better teams out there, give or take some rounds. But you've got to say, you'd always put your money on Synergy on that map when it comes down to it. They always seem very, very competent, and one of their big wins obviously was the Verse Pro game as well. They've had some massive results on there. So, as you said, Penta have to get the win in early, or at least start the ball rolling pretty darn early. Otherwise, they could really start to struggle. But anyway, talking now about the styles of play we're going to see from these two, because they're kind of different, aren't they? You know, we've got quite the stoic play almost of Synergy, and we've got the aggressive play coming out from the likes of Penta. Now, how does that really kind of match up against each other?
I think the super positional tactical play from Synergy is actually a pretty good call. I think it's done well against the very skilled teams, obviously, like Verse Pro. They lost against Tornado Rocks a couple of weeks back, last Tuesday, I believe. And Tornado Rocks obviously has got some fantastic players as well. But Penta is not just all about players. Yes, they got, you know, the Dead Zone, they got New Marty Show, really top skill players, but at the same time, I think they got enough tactics and enough surprise factor that they can actually catch out those positional plays from Synergy. So you got this whole thing where Penta's being very aggressive. You know, they stick to their guns. They love those T-54s. Then you got the thing where Synergy's staying back. You know, they're playing their own game. They're wanting to get those positions where they, you know, train time and time again on. And that's really where, you know, these two teams draw the line. I think whichever manages to take a little bit of the other team's ability and bring it onto their own side, I think will do very well.
Well, guys, just so you had a good idea of how this one started, that's going to wrap up kind of the pre-show intro of this. We're going to go to a very, very short break. This gives you a chance to keep those votes coming in and think about what we've just laid out in front of you in between Synergy and Penta. Obviously, head over to Facebook for that one. And while we're waiting for the teams to get ready, we're going to take a very short break. Welcome back to the WGLEU here. We are just waiting on that game one to start up. A couple of the issues just had to fix a couple of settings that are having their own little problems. But hopefully they'll be resolved and we'll get back underway with Synergy up against Penta, our first game of the day and this week, to be fair. So, once again, kind of thinking about what we have coming up. If you're going to make a bet, where would you go to on this one?
On paper, Synergy. I think in actual fact, Penta, I think they have a really good chance. I hope they go into this match with a lot of volition.
Well, something to look forward to on our first map, Mines.
Mines, a small summertime map with lots of hills, rocks and other cover. The teams start the battle in the usual locations. But the base locations are different. One is located in the bottom part of the village and the other one is in the water. The key directions here are the hill and the island. That's why the teams will often select fast vehicles and tanks with strong turrets.
Welcome to Mines. As said, on the attacking side to begin with, it's going to be Synergy. And on the defending side, it's Penta, a team who relentlessly choose this map. And already, those T-54s are trying to get complete possession of that hill.
Yeah, and Penta looking for their first attacking win on this map. Do a lot better on the defensive side in general. Which obviously, oh sorry, they're obviously playing the defensive side first, sorry. But they will be looking for their first attacking win after the first 2 rounds. Now, we are seeing Synergy go pretty aggressive at the start with those 2 T-54s and Zamika playing the LTTB. Now, this is not unusual, but this at the beginning so quickly is a bit strange, and that's caused Penta to push forwards.
And if Penta actually get these kills, this could be a disaster for them. Total Best is being totally wrecked at the moment. He's down to a one-shot. Raven's going to happily pick that one up in the LTTB. And next, right in the center of it all, is Nidin with nothing to do. He's going to be taken out, leaving just 4 alive with Synergy. The split just seemed to have gone so badly wrong, and Stalker has got to face the music as Penta, finally with their aggression, have maybe just pulled this off.
They definitely have. It's not a single tank gone down for Penta, and pretty much 4 gone down for Synergy, and the ones remaining have got a lot of hit points, and Mielov does find message there, but here comes the rest of the Penta boys.
Yeah, Liliot is now surrounded on all fronts, down to a one-shot, and Haki will deliver that kindly as Mielov and Zamika, the last 2 standing, the LTTB and that T-54, just taking an absolute beating as we speak. And look at this, once again, Raven gonna just pad out that scoreline. And this just seemed to be a tactical misread from Synergy, overestimating what they could achieve and how much they could hold. And now Mielov does at least take the dead zone with him, but it's Haki to close it out, and Penta picking up round 1. Not what I expected. Talk me through that, because it seemed like Synergy had a bit of a plan. They wanted to go for that split on that eastern side, but it went so badly wrong for them.
Yeah, normally that split on the eastern side happens a little bit later in the game. Once you've got some positioning and you've got some knowledge and information of where the other team is. Now, Synergies went full in. They went really hard into the eastern side, a big gamble for them, didn't know where Penta was, and Penta were just stacked below that middle area. They could just push straight across with those T-54s, took down the IS-3, which is of course the biggest obstacle for the T-54, and then they just closed the net on the rest of the Synergy guys there. So, you know, Synergy made a gamble, it didn't work out, and of course, you know, Penta finally, you know, getting their timing right, being very quick, reacting within a split second and making the right decision.
Yeah, looking back, the man at the helm of Synergy, Stalker, had to withstand a little himself, but he was one of the last to fall in this sort of area, but everyone else from that northern side of Synergy had already fallen by that point.
It's quite interesting as well that you got Raven, the LTTB, and Haki in the Bulldog. Now, of course, maybe the teams are thinking, okay, so the LTTB isn't so much about killing tanks, but actually doing the damage. Now, of course, the Bulldog's always been known as the tank that actually kills the other tanks, because when they're on low HP, the Bulldog can just blast them down within a few shots. So that's an interesting evolution there from Penta. And of course, it worked out very well this time around, especially against those T-54s. Now, it's already game over. You know, Penta had all 7 tanks remaining until message went down, and then you could push on the hill. Of course, some good work by Mielov there. Does find a couple of his own. But at the end of the day, really nice reaction from Penta. Not much else to say about it. And Synergy gamble, didn't work out.
So, going forward, you'd assume Synergy will not do that again. Surely they wouldn't go for that Eastern split. It just seemed to go very poorly for them. So, if they went back to a more standard play, how do you think those T-54s would have fared going up onto that hill? Or was that just Penta trying to get some control of the map early on?
I think it's classic Penta. They're trying to get the map control, as you mentioned. They're trying to get some eyes and ears across the map, seeing where the other team is. And of course, with those T-54s, the one big benefit of them picking that tank, whereas most teams pick the IS-3s, is that you can react very quickly. So if you are stacked all the way down to the south of the map, you can just go straight forwards. You've got a downward slope. You can head into the middle very quickly. Whereas the IS-3 was definitely a little bit more of a trundle, and across that soft ground, it's especially hard. But I think going forwards, I think Synergy need to get a little bit more information. I think they need to get that hill early on. They didn't actually contest for that one, which allowed Penta to go straight across without receiving any side shots. And maybe just find that information before going aggressive. Then when you have the information, you can go on the eastern side and you can push off with the rest of your tanks on the hill as well. But you know, we'll have to see. Of course, Synergy a very positional team, not necessarily all about player skill, more about, you know, finding good positions like Supreme, working the map to their advantage, and then moving out from there.
I'm going to find out if that's something they can actually achieve in a moment's time. The teams are just loading into the battle now, and already Penta starting to take a good lead. This was one of those win conditions we were discussing earlier, that not only were they aggressive, but it worked out. They responded well, and they were aware of every single issue that could be. But this is a very different lineup, it seems, going out for Penta as well now.
Super strange. I mean, as I said 100 times before, Penta always with the T-54 stacks now. They got 5100, they got the 3 IS-3s, and they got the T-54 Object 416 and a T-37. Now, that lineup's not unusual. It's just unusual for Penta. A lot of the Russian teams and a few of the Europeans, for instance, Supreme, have picked up this lineup before, especially with that 416. I think it's pretty deadly. Obviously, a lot slower than the T-54 lineup they usually pick, and that will mean they won't be able to go forwards. They'll be on the back foot at the beginning. But at the same time, Synergy with the IS-3s and the 5100 have counter-picked them a little bit, because they do have the damage to take down the heavier lineups.
Well, this could be an issue, but already they're getting a little bit of damage done. Liliet there, and Milov pushing down towards the western side, almost singling out Haki, but Haki did get a good couple of shots in, and Milov is already down to 567 HP. But elsewhere on the map, this is a passive Penta. This is not what I'm used to.
Yeah, but Iliad just has a good idea where the 416 is now of the dead zone. Now, you know, you see the IS-3 pushing forwards. That's a little bit strange. I mean, you often see a T-32 there, but the IS-3 now going up towards that hill. They want to keep the pressure on there. Haki gets caught out, and of course, Haki will eventually lose that matchup, and he does, thanks to a shot from behind by Stalker. Now, they have got that western side now, Synergy. Obviously, the logical choice would be to go forwards, try and find an angle onto the 416 and the T-54. Well,
maybe looking for that. We are seeing the 5100 pushing up on the eastern side as well. It's kind of curious. It's almost a counter-rotate, but there's still those two T-54s on the western side, starting to look towards Messig here, who is in the IS-3, so it's going to be slightly harder to deal with than the previous member who had pushed down. Ooh. And now he's got backup. He's got friends on the way. 2 other tanks, the 416 is joining. And if Iliad and Milov are not careful, they're going to be massively overwhelmed. Oh, look at this. Milov gets decimated in 2 shots there. Completely outstaying their welcome, and sure, Lilia got 1-2 shots in, but he is a matter of time by this point, and it's going to be Messig to take him down. So 2 tanks down now, Synergy. Starting to look a little shaky here.
And also good pressure onto Stalker. I mean, Stalker is doing good damage against Messig.
Around the back.
And Umoli showed from behind, obviously, he was going pretty fast onto that hill, finds total best, and now it's looking great for Penta.
That's brilliant play. He's just shown them how to do those flanking maneuvers. Perfectly timed, well positioned, and now Winnie the Pooh is in between a rock and a hard place. Sure, he's got an IS-3 to help him out here, and that LTTB could pester Numocho, but he's got to be cautious. He's only got 1 shell to make now, and he's got to be careful of the man right behind him. It's going to be Zamika. He does get the 1 shot through, but he's got a long time to wait for that reload.
And Numocho also keeping the pressure onto Zamika. He knows he's dead. He's just trying to buy as much time as possible. Synergy have got back into this game now. It's a 3 versus 3, but Killer Pit brings it down to a 3 versus 2, and very low HP Nidin and Zamika in the LTTB. It should still be Penta's game.
It should be, but can they close here? Synergy can be one of those big teams that step up, but you've still got IS-3s in there. You know, Killer Pit's still alive. Sure, he's a little low, but he's such a presence at this point. and Synergy are on the attacking side, so they've only got 3 minutes to do this, and Nidin starting trying to find an option here, but that 416 is just off to the side. Now Killerpit takes one, but Nidin takes one back from the dead zone. They can't get a clean shot off here. Zamika needs to land this. He doesn't have the time to do this. Surely not. The dead zone finds Nidin, and now just Zamika, who got surrounded in the end by Raven anyway. And Penta, 2-0 up, just outplaying Synergy on every single front.
Yep.
I don't know what to say about this, because Synergy seems sloppy. They seem outthought, outprocessed, outgunned by Penta.
Yeah, I think, well, this is the thing. I had an inkling that Penta were actually getting into this this season a little bit. Obviously, they got destroyed by V-Pro, but they showed themselves, sorry, Virtus Pro. They showed themselves to be a little bit better. That's for Kusok, of course. He gives me so much grievances for saying V-Pro, and I should say VP or Virtus Pro. Now, that out of the way, I think, you know, they were very predictable move there from Synergy. You know, it's like they go right on the first round, they go left on the second round. T54s go forwards, they try and challenge Hacky. Hacky does his job, keeps them at bay, also good damage. And then Penta are like, screw this, I'm not going to sit here. Message goes forwards the dead zone, and Raven and the T54 on the 416, and they just simply get the overmatch. I think Message could have been a little bit better there. I think he should have just driven forwards, gotten safe with that IS3, but he received a lot of damage because he stayed up, and maybe he had an ulterior motive there, but that's really what got them the game. The two T54s down for just a T37.
And let's remember, Numocho on that flank, he got around the back of them. Now, used to be hailed as a player of only doing individual things. Him doing this wasn't a bad plan. Now, by this point, he'd already done a little bit of damage here, so he'd kind of served his purpose, it seemed.
Yeah, I mean, the only problem there for Synergy is that they left Zamika basically to defend the whole right flank. But it gave Penta a little bit of time. Yes, okay, Numulti should have had a little bit more damage potential. He would have got the reload and it wouldn't have been a 3 versus 3 situation, but he keeps Zamika, he keeps Winnie the Pooh back, so actually the rest of his team, the T54, the IS3, the 416, can actually get out of that western K1, K2 area, move up into the middle, and actually win this convincing 3 versus 3 pretty easily, especially because Nidin decided to push off that hill, and obviously the dead zone, the 416 was ready and waiting.
Wow. Don't get me wrong, I like seeing Penta doing well, but they seem to have finally gotten everything in the right place. At least on that half, they played to, I'd say, the caliber that we've kind of expected for some time, or saw the potential of. You said, you know, they're an aggressive side, and we saw their first kind of hand of cards with those T54s displaying that, and then the second round slowing it down and kind of displaying the other side of Penta that's actually quite ingenious sometimes. So hopefully we see more of that. Obviously they're going to be switching sides now, so they'll be going on to the defensive side, I believe, and Synergy... Wait.
No, Pentago on the attacking side.
Pentago on the attack now. So we'll have to see how that goes out for them. Synergy having their 2 turns on it now on the defending side. But Melly, the people at home, I can imagine they're just starting to see the games at the moment. They're just starting to get involved. The votes must be coming in. How are they finding the game so far?
Well, as mentioned at the start, the vote was pretty high in favor for Penta, which surprised all 3 of us, and for sure some of the audience at home. And during the first 2 rounds, it actually changed quite often. It balanced somewhere between the 50% marker.
Oh, wow.
But once Synergy was in favor, but now Penta is actually leading with 52%. Very, very tiny lead, but still
a lead nonetheless.
Exactly.
Wow, that's not what I expected the day to kind of begin as, but this is going the way we said. We said that there's certain win conditions that need to come into place with Penta, and this is going well. What's the ideal scoreline? If people have to bet the scoreline as well, of course, to win the gold, all the gold. What would you recommend on this first map, at least? For Penta would be a good scoreline, and a realistic one, of course.
Well, I think what Penta's doing right now is exactly what Kazakuru did to Synergy when they played Mines. I mean, Kazna just locked Synergy straight out this map, and Penta's doing exactly the same. Of course, Synergy managed to get one of the rounds back for them on this one when they played Kaz, and I think Penta's going to have that same issue, but I think a 3-1 scoreline for Penta right now looks realistic. Those 2 matches weren't even that close, especially that first one, but now the real test comes here for Penta. They're moving on to the attacking side, as we mentioned. They haven't really picked up around the attacking side yet, and that's something that's going to daunt Penta a little bit, and a real challenge for them if they can actually manage to pick up that first round. But we'll see.
Penta things.
Yeah, Penta things, T54 stack, YOLO into the middle.
Let's see what they got here. They are on the attack. So this is kind of a throwaway round almost. They have 2 in the bag. They can adjust a little, but against them, there is a lot of T54s, a 5100 in there, and 2 IS3s at minimum. So They will get to the hill first, and I don't think too much is coming towards them. Actually, they've done some great work on the cross, getting a couple of shots towards Winnie the Pooh, and only taking 2 or maybe 3 off the back of that. Yeah,
it was okay for Penta. I mean, 2 or 3 shots went towards them. Of course, Penta's not playing for that hit points game anyway, because they got the T54s, especially against a very heavy stack of IS3s, 5100s from Synergy. Now, Synergy going to play below that hill with the IS3s and T54s going forwards. And Penta look like they're kind of baiting Synergy into that hill, and you still got that T54 of Messick just getting the cross and doing the damage.
And the FV, we're seeing the shell starting to arc in already. So if they keep playing like this, those shots are coming through. Lilia just taking a bit of a shell there, 103 damage, and that was close. But nice. Look at this round the back. It's the dozy-do. They're doing the rope-a-dope, but it's kind of working out. Look at this. Samika is getting absolutely ruined. He's down to nothing already. And Nid is trying to make a run for it, but with 4 tanks on your heels, you're not going to get so far. And Hacky does the final blow towards him. Sure, Total Best gets one back, but that 5100 in the back lines could do further damage. But Killer Pit finds Samika in the IS3. This is going pretty well. But then again, Penta only has 2k hit points here, and they're starting to dwindle. Sure, the damage was good. The plan didn't seem so bad, but they've got to be able to close this one down.
Yeah, Messick a little bit late to this battle, actually. He should have been there to try and finish off these tanks a little earlier, and it's given Ilya a way in, and Messick, you know, some bad play from him could have cost Penta that match as you're sitting on that back line, but still you can see Killer Pit just landing the shells on the IS3s. Also the 5100s on reload. Stalker's not a massive deal, but of course Penta's worried that Stalker could be on the rotate, and he is on the rotate to try and take down Killer Pit.
Oh, Messick, if you can get the information here, light these guys up one more time, maybe allow a chance for another shell to come out from Killer Pit, I'd absolutely love that, but he's got to be cautious. 100% accuracy from Total Best in this game. 6 shots made, 6 landing, and Messick trying to be cautious, trying to be smart about this one, but Total Best has the shells now. A 1-for-1 exchange, but it's not good enough. Total Best is not missing here, and Killer Pit with some sublime work, but we knew it was a matter of time before Stalker just hunted him down, found him, and surely is going to do the damage.
Yeah, this is game over. Killer Pit. Oh my God, Stalker pro skills. Almost gets himself taken out by Killer Pit there if he missed a couple more shells. But it will be Synergy to walk away with that one. 2-1 scoreline now. Of course, Penta on the attacking side failed a little bit.
But to me, it looked like their theory craft was right, but then the player skill kind of let them down a little bit. I think we can say Messick was a little late to that. He seemed almost redundant in that later stage of that hill play that they had coming in.
Yeah.
Now, the FE was an ingenious idea. The damage that thing did was pretty perfect. I don't think I can doubt that. But what do we make of that overall play? Because it seemed like they were just trying to make Synergy play into their hands, which almost worked.
Yeah, it did. I mean, they knew that the IS3s and maybe one T54 would be below, so they could just, you know, kind of capture those T54s pushing on the hill. You know, have them come around, you know, bait them up, and then just push down that hill with a lot of speed. Now, I think the problem was, first of all, their focus fire wasn't great. I think they should have taken down Samika a little bit quicker. The second problem was Total Best in that 5100 was just an absolute beast. He just did such great work that it actually brought Synergy back in towards the hit points favor. Now, you could see Samika receives a lot of damage, and then they go on to Nidin, which is a bit awkward there because Total Best is in the background, the dead zone on basically no hit points here, and Messick is trying to get the cross shots on, which is okay for now, but a little bit later, it does become a problem here. But yeah, it's in favor of Synergy because they got the higher ground, they got the better positions right now.
Yeah, and I'm surprised it didn't really account for a tank in Total Best's position. It's not something completely uncommon to have a tank slightly further down to the south, either just to wait out maybe for an eastern push. And I was surprised that didn't seem to kind of come into mind there myself, but still, Total Best really did nail that. I've got to say, you know, an individual player who can excel. But still, Penta seemed to go, that was their Hail Mary, kind of, you know, throw caution to the wind. We're up 2 rounds, let's try something out, try and catch them out. Now, you'd assume they go back to the kind of more standard, the more typical. But is there a more standard and typical for Penta, or is there a middle ground?
That's a typical kind of way of playing mines on the attacking side, very aggressive with those T54s. I think if I was to change one thing, I would say ditch one of the T54s, take an AMX 1390, because you're not giving away too much there, And then when you have those burst situations where you need to take down a tank very quickly before you lose one of your own, it's actually very useful. You can see Nidin was playing one for Synergy. He did a fair bit of damage before he died, and Penta just lacked that burst to actually, you know, have a tank dead within a couple of seconds, and that cost them dearly. But, you know, it looked good, and it looks like Penta have their mind in this game in the correct kind of form. But again, Synergy, you know, they're still very quick at reacting. Their positional play is very good. They don't overreact. They still think one step ahead if they can with that total best play with a 5100. I think his position was great. But honestly, I still see Penta bring this one to 3-1. They look like the better team right now, and Synergy is still reacting to what Penta's doing, not the other way around.
I was about to say, it seems that Synergy is the passive one here. Sure, they do close a couple of rounds, or at least one round thus far, but they've not made any of the plays, they've not made any of the moves. And sure, Penta's a little more aggressive. They like to be the guys to kind of instigate things, but normally Synergy have a way to get around that, but we've not seen it so far. They've been playing very beige, very bland, very middle of the road. But Melly, how's Twitch chat out there doing? You know, I know they get pretty hyped up by these games. How are they looking so far? Seeing Penta win against Synergy to this point, at least, surely he's getting them going.
Please nerf message. So
I guess they haven't seen this map yet.
Exactly, they're exactly in the moment where Penta's heading towards Synergy. But yes, they registered that Penta is actually trying better. Well, not trying better, doing better.
Yeah.
You know, seeming more consistent, more established, and it also influences the vote, of course. So 52%, as said, still.
Wow. Pretty decent stuff coming through. Considering Synergy's argued to be a top 3 team, quite possibly down the end of the line, or how the season closes out, this is very good from Penta. At least the community is still there beside them, regardless of their previous results, taking them at face value. But guys at home, just to keep you up to date, of course, they are just repicking tanks. They are just, you know, rearranging the lineups. We see that often when someone tries out something quite, let's say, drastic, like that many T-54s or something quite indicative, they'll change for the second round. You know, the first round's always to try things, second to switch it up. Now, I kind of asked you the question before as to what they would, you know, what is their more standard play, but what sort of tanks do you think we're going to see in this one? What would they pick up? Because we've seen a couple of 4-on-6s being now, you know, touched upon. The IS-3 is obviously a mainstay, the 5100's coming in. Is this something Penta might pick up now? Yeah,
they did last time when they did a full T-54 stack. They actually picked up, I believe, 2 IS-3s or 1 IS-3 and a 5100. It didn't work out for them that round either, but I think that's a logical thing to do. I don't think an IS-3 really hurts, but the thing is, with the T-54s, I mean, how many strategies does Penta have in that bag? Do they pick the T-54s again to go on that hill, or maybe do they pick the T-54s again to go on that western island or the eastern side? But any way you kind of look at it, Synergy's going to be thinking Penta's going to be aggressive with those tanks. They love those tanks, and any picks we do will be around trying to beat those tanks. So I think you have that whole dynamic going on. If I was Penta, I think a 5100 and IS-3 is not a bad shout though.
Well, considering this is almost triple what they've been able to achieve the entire season so far, just in this map. The amount of rounds they already have is pretty substantial compared to all the other games. They only managed, what, 1 round against Supreme? So this is a very different Penta, starting to put together all the pieces that seem to be lacking in those previous games, especially on this map. However, Himmelsdorf coming up later is going to be a different ordeal and a different matter unto itself. I'll have to wait for that one though, because there's still 1 round to go here on our first map. Mines, of course, Synergy having a better record overall than Penta, but it doesn't seem to matter today because Penta's finally making things work.
Yeah, they look like they're on form right now, and it's good to see finally. I mean, Penta sitting down on 8th at the moment. They got a lot of work to do in this season, and I think it would start off well. It would bode well for them as well if they managed to beat, of course, the beasts that are being Synergy so far. Now, you have seen Penta pick up the IS-3 and 5100, and also pushing on that western side.
Yeah, so this is the change. It seems like a more middle ground for them. They still get their T-54s, but then they have the IS-3 and the 5100, just a little more, and we're going to see Killerpit put up to where I think Stalker actually played that spot before in the previous games.
Yeah, he did, and it's been played on a Russian server, on the WGLRU as well a few times. Pretty standard. You can lock down that middle area quite effectively, and Synergy are a very slow team. They love those IS-3s. And of course, Killerpit will love shooting them because they are fairly big, fairly easy to hit, especially with the arc you have on that FV304. You can shoot over all sorts of things. Basically, no hiding place for any of Synergy. Now, Penta, really over towards that western side. It's actually not a bad shout now. If they push, they can get some shots onto the back of those IS-3s. They're not spotted apart from New Multi-Show, who seems to be acting as bait right now. But Penta needs to get the timing right. They need to start pushing.
This is kind of curious. He's almost playing exactly where the FV was before, and I'm wondering if maybe Killerpit has even taken a shot yet. I'm kind of hoping that he has. So, okay. I was always hoping they were using New Multi-Show as the bait, like, oh, we'll probably put the FV up there again, guys. Come on, try and fight us up here, and it's just New Multi-Show waiting. But Penta are on the rotate. They're looking elsewhere now. So, they kind of scouted out the western side, didn't see much, and now they're backing towards the middle. What is this indicative of?
It's a little strange because I thought they would push towards the western side. I guess they could be slightly wary that Zamika's there in the LTTB, but if they did push the western side, they would be able to get some good shots onto the back of the IS-3s. You'd have New Multi-Show on the plateau to basically provide support, but now they've gone for a bit of a strange engage onto Synergy with the IS-3s, where they're in favor. They hold down, they got more HP, and Penta have moved away from a kind of specialist tactic to something a little bit more ordinary, as Messig does start to push that hill with the IS-3.
Messig, a hit-and-miss player so far, seeming to do well in moments and then fall apart a little on the others. But as you can see in the back of your screen, Stalker is taking a little bit of a journey. He's having a little bit of a nosy round on the eastern side. He's in that Bulldog there, so he's going to get some great information gathered pretty soon, or at least be able to hold this flank. But what's his purpose in this sort of spot?
Well, he can spot that whole eastern flank, which of course is one of the options Synergy has. But yeah, he can also shoot onto New Multi-Show. Because he's far enough behind that bush, he can't get spotted. But Nidin finally receiving some damage onto the back of that engine bay from Killerpit. Of course, the FV304, if you're using penetrative ammo, heat ammo, it can do 450 per shell. So it really does start to add up. More than a tier 8 tank, and it's working so far for Penta.
God, this is quite the standoff though, isn't it? You can see the arcing fire coming in from that FV, and now Penta dying to just fold in towards Nidin, but if they go, they're still Winnie the Pooh. But look at Liliat, look at Mihalov. These two are looking to try and get back into this. The damage is coming in, but it's not thick and it's not fast, and Mihalov takes a lot of fire. Liliat has to back away, but New Multi-Show finds Stalker, removes that threat from the battle, and well, this clump of Penta might need to make their move pretty soon. They have a huge advantage, double the HP, but Synergy want to take the matter into their own hands. But here comes a move. Nidin destroys Hacky, but there's a response. At least the Dead Zone gets one back, but this is a bit of a scrappy battle from both. Synergy are down so low, but they've got tanks in the game, and surely Penta need to close this one out.
And where is New Multi-Show? He's on reload, 20 seconds. That's really not good timing, but Messig is on the hill with the IS-3. That's the ideal position, and he can find Mieloff and Total Bessel on really low hit points, and of course, Zamika, a possible one-shot for the IS-3. Definitely a one-shot for the IS-3 now.
Oh, Message has to get that one. Surely Zamika still in the game. It's going to be a nuisance. Message holding his own. He delivers towards Mieloff and allows maybe Zamika to get away, but
nice
Potato just taking out Total Best then. Nicely done. And even without New Multi-Show in the battle, who's finally going to start trundling towards them, they've done wonderfully between these two. That T-54 play from Raging Potato, Messig in the IS-3, and of course the arcing fire from Killerpit doing well.
Of course, New Multi-Show probably should have been in the battle a little bit earlier on. Even if he can't do damage, he's a distraction. He can actually soak some damage. He was completely on the other end of the map, doing basically nothing apart from taking down Stalker in that T-37. Now he takes all the glory, finds Elliot and Zamika left in that LTTB with a lot to do, and really not a lot to do with it.
I can't even hype you up, New Multi-Show. It's not fair you walking in like this. It's like, you know, all the other guys did the hard work, and you're like, let me clean up. But Messagely steals that one from him, and that is perfect. But still, a nicely played out round again from Penta. They seem to have control of that entire game. Let's kind of exclude New Multi-Show being almost excluded from the whole game until he decided he wanted to turn up. From start to finish, they seem to have the plan. They seem to really work that FV into play.
Yeah.
And Synergy just lapped it up. They didn't seem to know any better.
Yeah, I think the FV was a very instrumental part of Penta's plan there. I mean, Penta could have gone on that western side, and I think that was the initial play. But then they realized that the IS-3s were basically, and the whole of Synergy were basically below in that hillside. So they just went in, they got the spots on the IS-3, they kept it there behind the rock, and Killer Pit could just pound it down with so many shells. Eventually it goes down, Hacky goes in. Bit strange that he didn't just take down the IS-3, leaving it for someone else behind him. Could have saved his life there, but of course he was the first one to go in, so he's probably going to be the first one to die. I think Penta a little bit tentative. There were some mistakes from their part.
Yep.
Synergy was the one that went forwards, actually put the fight to Penta, which gave them some...
It got a little closer.
It got very close, and I think the big play there was Messig just, you know, ignoring a few tanks and just pushing on that hill, getting that positional advantage. And, you know, he did so much work in that IS-3 that it was really game over. I thought as well, Stalker probably shouldn't have died in that T-37. He should have held his own against New Multi-Show for a little bit longer, maybe even managing to take him down or do enough damage onto the back of him that he couldn't join the fight a little later on.
Yeah, and looking back, of course, there are several moments that you saw some tanks getting a little bit caught out of position, already stuck into a nid in here. There's nowhere to run at this point, really. He just had to weather the storm as long as possible. But were there any options available, or is that literally his job, just to try and hold on?
Yeah, he really couldn't do anything, because if he actually tried to run away from this situation, Hacky could just shoot him, the dead zone could just shoot him. He's basically dead. You can see Penta are quite clearly ahead in hit points. You see Iliot, a bit strange, and Mirlov going forwards. I think Synergy's like, oh crap, we can't have Nid and die for nothing. So they do try and make something work here. You can see Zamika, Total Best, and Winnie the Pooh start to itch to go forwards. They do eventually, and they actually bring the game pretty close, and Penta does move forwards. You can see there, Hacky gets absolutely decimated, disintegrated, but still, Penta have the higher ground. They have about twice as much hit points, and also Messig and also Raging Potato did a fantastic job in the IS-3 and the T-54 respectively.
Now, of course, prior to that, they did lose a lot of HP. They were down on HP by then, but was there any viable route to change that for Synergy, or was that their one option? Just try and make the play, try and be the aggressor?
I think they possibly could have used the LTTBs a little bit more effectively, come around from the side, be a little bit more aggressive. I think it was a little bit obvious what they did. And of course, you know, Penta just managed to counter-strike that one very easily. Maybe even just push the hill. You know, you see Team Supreme with the IS-3s just push up the hill.
Yep.
Once they saw, okay, there's only New Multi-Show in the 5100 up north, we can't spot anything else in terms of T-54s. Let's just get that positional advantage, let's just get the hill. You know, we might receive a couple of shells from the 5100 of New Multi-Show, but all in all, it should be okay. I think that was the one big mistake from Synergy.
Well, mistakes have happened. It's 3-1 now in favour to Penta. Now, the people at home, Melly, must be loving this, because there are a lot of Penta fans out there. They start off the most vocal at the start of the day. They must be having a great time now.
Absolutely. I mean, always seeing the underdog prevail is always something great for the audience, at least. And I mean, underdog, of course, to its established teams. But on paper, Synergy, of course, rated much higher than Penta. Well, it showed much more during the past match days. And as you guys already said, we're almost, well, we're over halfway, right?
Yeah.
We only have, well, half of the season's left. That means the other half is almost over as well, which makes me sad already. But that's my logic. Don't look confused, Ollie. I mean, we're in the 6th match week, 10 in total, and then are the finals. So only 4 match weeks left.
Yeah, we're getting pretty close. It's pretty sad. Of course, we've got a super...
Look, it's sad. You said it yourself.
We've got a the thing is, because of Gamescom, basically we have a break as well, so we get to see 1 week after Gamescom where we basically play a load of matches. So that should be pretty good. So yeah, we're getting pretty close to the end of the season. Yeah,
that's true. So people, you've heard it. Still chances to win bonus codes, so don't be too sad. Head over to our social media platforms and get involved. For once, Twitter, of course, using the hashtag WGLEU to tell us whatever is on your mind, to get involved and maybe win a bonus code over there as well if we like your tweet, if your memes are funny enough. And of course on Facebook, the vote for the first match is still open. People at home are predicting a pretty close ending, so let's see what the second map brings after a short break.
Welcome back to the WGLEU. Map 1 is completed in our first game of the day, or first map of the day, should I say, between Synergy and Penta. A 3-1 scoreline thus far for Penta. It's not what we expected, but map 2 is certainly Synergy's home. This is Himmelsdorf. That's their castle at the top of that hill. What do we expect from this? Yeah,
they've had about twice as many rounds on this map than Penta have had this season. So I think this is their stronghold. Of course, Penta played mines a little bit more than you. Kazna managed to beat Synergy quite convincingly on mines, and if they play a similar style, they'll probably be able to win against Synergy. So good first map for Penta for sure. 3-1 scoreline coming out, as you said. I think this one on Himmelsdorf is really where we see the men from the boys. I think Himmelsdorf provides that real basic understanding of what tanks. You need the fundamentals down to a T. Penta need to get their timing correct, and Synergy have looked very dangerous on this one, about 65% on the overall win. Just a lot better than Penta in general on this map, and I think this could be very good for them.
Yeah, currently a 4 out of 3 win ratio overall for Penta. Good results against ASAP, but we haven't seen much. So this will be the first real glimpse of Penta on Himmelsdorf.
Himmelsdorf, a small city map. The teams start the battle in opposite corners. Both bases are located close to each other, but in a way that you can't stay on the defensive all the time. The main attack routes pass through the hill, the alley and the railroad. Heavy tanks with powerful guns run the show here. However, much depends on the light tanks. Usually they go for the base capture.
It's been a while since I've seen a 1390 in this one, but who knows? Maybe they'll switch it up at one point, but still, we are seeing ourselves in on this, and a 5100 with new mode show. He likes to be on his own as per usual, so no surprises there. But still, on the attack it's Penta, on the defense it's Synergy. What do you see so far? Well,
a very heavy lineup from Penta, almost 10k hit points in total for just 7 tanks. Yeah, the IS-2, a nice little tank. I mean, the IS and the IS-2 are awesome, to be honest. I mean, really good to play. It's got the same gun, the DT-25, I believe. Does a lot of damage, 390. The IS-2 can just take a beating. It's an absolute beast to play. Very fun, very dynamic. And I think Penta's just going for that full-on alpha damage wave. They've only got new multi-show in probably what he feels is his most comfortable tank, the 5100. And Penta do catch Stalker a little bit unawares with that first shot. Yeah, but the dead zone's got to be careful here. Liliet, actually, and Tobes both get spotted out by the dead zone, who cautiously peered through. But there is that T-32 there of Zamika, and still Liliet in the back line, so they're not backing away fully this time. Yeah, typically Penta have been pretty cautious on this map. They like to play it a little slower than they do on Himmelsdorf, on Mind even. But we haven't seen really much of Penta on the attacking side. Only 1 round so far this season, so we have to see what they can bring to the table. Killapit in a pretty standard position. Normally you see them on the left instead of the right. But it looks like that western side is where they want to go. But Synergy's kind of have this mind game going on with Penta right now. It's like, okay, so they haven't got a tank that can sit behind that building. They haven't got like a T-37 or a 12T. So what are they going to go for? The logical choice would be the 8-line push with those tanks. But we haven't really spotted anything apart from Killapit and the IS-3. So if you're going to push up the 1 to 3 line, how are Penta going to go for it? Are they just going to go for full engage, or are they going to go for the cap? Well, these are the questions we're going to find out very soon. But theorycraft to me, the usage of the IS-2 especially, you said what it's good at, but where can you practically use it? And do you think this is an actual plan from Penta? Because surely you wouldn't just pick this off player preference. Hacky and Raven clearly have something in mind here. And is it indicative of something you could envision happening? Is there a play in mind that could work here? Yeah, as I said, it just does a lot of damage. It's not particularly the most survivable tank in the game. It's got a few interesting slopes on its front, and of course, the side armor in most Russian tanks is very good indeed. And the Russian military doctrine in general is nothing about sniping. It's all about getting in the brawl. And they always think that the dogfights will be the ultimate result of any war. So that's, of course, where the IS-2 is focused. It's not like a Tiger where you have 1.5k hit points. You can soak a lot. You got a big rate of fire. It's just brutish, does a lot of damage, and that's what Penta wanted to use it for. Now, the logical choice, I said, is the 8-line, and that's where Penta's heading. Well, you've called it absolutely spot on so far. Now it's down to the players to actually deal that rather impressive amount of damage that the IS-2 can provide, as well as those IS-3s. The dead zone is spearheading the charge so far. He's going to
at least make it around the corner. There is an IS-3 down the end of this line as well. So got to be a little cautious. The dead zone well aware, but you can see those shells starting to bounce, and those IS-3s just not taking a lick of damage yet.
Yeah, a little bit of shot there from Stalker on the hill. There's not really anyone that can shoot him right now, and he's not doing a lot of damage. But there is a bit of a funnel now, which Penta could take a lot of damage for.
Yeah, they could do, but they're getting away pretty scot-free. They've gained a lot of ground without taking too much. Only Messick so far taking maybe a shell. Raging Potato joining in on that, but now they're going to see what these guys can achieve when they have to deal the damage. Mihailov is now on half hit points, and you can see the deficit starting to build here for Synergy. They've got to be careful, but these boys know how to play this map, and already the 5100 and the IS-3 around the backside. Killerpit is outnumbered, but can he withstand Nidin? Nidin in that 1v1 up against Killerpit here. IS-3 against 5100. We know those shells will be lined up nice and quickly, and the other boys trying to get back into position, but Penta seem a little sloppy here, but they're holding the HP numbers, surprisingly. And Killerpit with a beautiful little angle, actually finding some cover, but it doesn't matter. Nidin will take him down. Total Best even finding Hacky at this point, keeping Synergy looking healthy, but with so many tanks alive, just kind of losing on the HP slightly.
Yeah, they are. I mean, it's going good for Synergy, but Penta still have a slightly more hit points. Now, Synergy really have a choice. Do they peek? Do they go for those shots? Or do they wait a little bit and wait for Penta to come forwards? The one thing which I really like from Penta is that they're all together as Messick comes from behind.
Oh, this could be impressive. He knows Stalker can't do much here. He's already taken down Mihailov. That's perfect play. Now he's got the dead zone with him. It's 2v2, but Liliet now going to come around. Doesn't have reload just yet, but his presence might put them off. But no, Message knows what's going on here. Zamika falls, but there we go. Finally, Stalker gets into the action. That T-37 certainly worth its weight, but Numocho deals with him next. And Penta, with 4 tanks alive against the mere 3 of Synergy, could do something here. But Nidin still in the battle. Total Best in a great position now. 2v3. Penta need to turn up here. Total Best takes a bit of an exchange with Numocho. Message challenging down Liliet. That is so unlucky. Message needed that shot. Liliet left on nothing, and Numocho having to deal with 2. Liliet takes down Message, and there we have it. Total Best finding Numocho, and Synergy close it out with 3 tanks standing on 300 hit points. That was so close.
So close, and it just came down to Penta just pushing forwards when they thought they had the advantage and getting taken down by Total Best in that 5100. 2 tanks fell for him, and that's just not a situation you want to happen at all. But Penta were clearly ahead in that game. It was just the last few seconds they gave it away, and the team speak must be pretty alive right now after that match, because
I'd almost be in silence going, what? How?
Yeah.
How the... What happened, guys?
I thought it was over when Messick and the dead zone were pushing from behind. I thought, you know, they took down Zamika in the T-32. Yeah, okay, the dead zone fell because of Stalker. But still, they were at the head. And, you know, Numocho show again, you know, he's never in the fights. He's always the last one remaining.
The last guy in, right?
You know, at the back on the 8 line, he was in the 5100. You know, you could see Penta were waiting for the reload of the 5100. Synergy gave it to them, then they pushed forwards. And it went out very well for them. But then you saw some tanks of Penta pushing around the corner. 2 of them got taken down, and then Numocho comes in the battle. It's like, you should always, he's the one with the most HP, he's not a one-shot, he should just be going straight in, and he should be the one absorbing the damage for his team. So
many small errors in this, but let's look back at least the dead zone here, kind of get, you know, a little bit of a refresher, and this was the moment you were talking about. So Zamika to the left, Liliet to the north, and Stalker to the right. Now this is okay so far, and Stalker does the next move towards the dead zone, but I believe Numocho actually kills Stalker in the end, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, he does. The thing is there, Stalker's using the T-37, so he gets pretty lucky to actually kill the IS-3. But then you see this, Nidin takes down the IS-3, then you can see Total Best comes around, Numocho being super tentative there, Messick, you know, comes in, so you can see how Penta is struggling to be in this battle, and then also Synergy gets all their 5100s off reload at the same time, and that's just a killer for an IS-3. There's nothing you can do to actually stop that burst. You know, they needed the tanks in the game, and yes, okay, 300 HP left remaining for Synergy in the end is not a big deal, but it's had a lot more than 0.
Yeah, it certainly is. And this was something we were actually discussing that I didn't think would happen in today's game, is the fact that certain teams are able to turn on their maps regardless of the prior scoreline. So, of course, Penta picking up Mines 3-1, great scoreline, surely indicative of a win. However, more often than not, we've seen Tornado Rocks achieve this and also be on the receiving end of this, be able to turn it on the second map and bring it back all the way. But let's also bear in mind, Synergy don't want a deciding map. They want a clean victory here. This is not what they planned.
Yeah, we talked about it at the beginning of the show. You know, Synergy is fighting a race between them and Tornado Rocks, where whoever managed to get the 3 points today will be sitting quite happily up towards that top of the leaderboard. Of course, you know, Synergy is already up there and Tornado Rocks is there as well. So I think, you know, I think Penta's doing well. I think they made a few crucial mistakes. I think they got very close indeed, but still they're the ones making the moves. They're also innovating with those double IS2s. We've seen it before, but it's a great tank to use, and it seemed to work out quite well in those pushes. I think if I was them, maybe have another 5100 in there, you know, 2 5100s and ditch one of those IS3s, because I think they lacked a little bit of burst in that situation. They needed to close that game quicker because Synergy, you know, they had the hill, they could fly off that one, and it didn't work out well for Penta. But they look still in the driving seat.
And I hope we see that again from Penta. I hope they don't start getting, you know, down the dumps and they let the kind of, oh, guys who messed up so badly affect them. Hopefully they can, you know, pull it together, stay focused in this, and actually really achieve what they're here to do. They're already 3-1 up, or at least were, now 3-2. Synergy going to start building here, and if they already started off well in this map, you do not want to give them more of an opportunity. Synergy thrive on Himmelsdorf. This is one of their home maps. This is something that they'll always fall back to. And now Penta need to make that impression. We said before, Penta don't play it that often. We don't have a full kind of view of what they can bring here. And let's find out what they do for their round 2 now on the attacking side. Yeah,
by far Synergy's most popular map. 14 rounds played. The one just behind is Mines, where they've played it 8 times. So, you know, pretty comfortable map here for Synergy, and they're looking like they can, as you mentioned, bring it back, even though they're at a deficit. Now Penta, you know, they need to be keeping their morale high. You can see Hacky is going to be going straight onto that Himmel, and he needs to be careful because we've seen as well, you know, teams that have got the T-37 going aggressive on the hill straight away can often find it taken down. Stalker, again with that same position. And you can see straight away Penta's stacked up and towards the right side, the 8 line. Now, the big difference is they haven't got that double IS2 stack. They've gone and said for a more typical T-37, so they have more options. You know, that 8 line push is not the only option for them now. It's probably more likely that they'll go for a 1 to 3 line. And you can see Synergy are probably aware of that as well because they've got 5100 over there.
Yeah, so this is going to be a nice game. Both teams kind of aware of what the other can do, their options available, and how to actually achieve it. So, Hacky still looking, being a little bit cheeky here. He's got to be cautious. Bear in mind there's a T-32, 2 5100s there to Greem if he does overextend. But if we look towards the center of the map, the IS-3s are certainly on the move. Now, I can imagine Stalker has spotted at least some of this out.
Yeah, he has. He's a great position there from Stalker, actually. You can see the plan there as well from Penta. You know, keep Ilya and Total Best and Samika kind of busy with the Hacky movement, whilst the rest of them push through the middle. You can see the wave of red heading towards Winnie the Pooh. But as you mentioned, Stalker finds all the information he needs, but New Multishow once again getting the better of him.
Well, but can New Multishow make it actually to the real fight that might break out any second now? The IS-3's going to try and challenge down Winnie the Pooh, and in the background, Milov actually misses his shot. There's a good 3 or 4 seconds still before he can make any more. He's, you know, out of the battle at this point. Nidin and Winnie the Pooh trying to keep things together, but Raging Potato is in trouble. He's now going to be questioned, but holding on well so far. Raven and Messig are there, but those 5100s aren't far away.
So many bounces and misses from Synergy. It's cost them dearly. Finally, Raging Potato does fall, and Synergy is in their support.
Oh, but Hacky, poor timing. He's going to have to be met by Zamika here in the T-32, but it doesn't matter. The IS-3s, the 5100s, focusing down Mirlov. It's a 1-for-1 exchange. Message does go down, but New Multishow found Mirlov, and now 2v2, making a 2v4 if they make it that far. Synergy holding on here, but not by much.
The dead zone actually just received way too much damage for only 1 shot of his own. And Ilya missing another shell. This is a problem. Synergy are missing so many shells. Hacky's got them pinned in as well. So Synergy's remaining tanks are between 3 tier 8s from Penta and 1 T-37. You can see the damage does add up for that T-37 as well.
It really does, especially when the dead zone's kind of coupling in that with a couple of shots from the 5100. But Raven's starting to look a little bit more aggressive, trying to push them out of the the comfort zone. He's got to be careful, though. He doesn't have a shell until right about now, and he doesn't get it either. Winnie the Pooh might have an opportunity here to get one back at him, but here comes Numolcho finally to the fight. He's still sitting on 1k HP and above. That's unreal, but he is at least cleaning up, and now just Total Best left standing. He's doing what he can. He's fighting as hard as possible, but there's still 3 tanks standing in his way, and Penta are gonna close it down here 4-2. Penta looking extraordinarily good then.
Yeah, I mean, every single match so far in this season, when Penta started to lose, they've just gone downhill. They've tilted all the way to the kind of 5-1, 5-0 scorelines. Here, though, they look like a different team.
Yeah.
They look motivated. They look like they have the momentum now. They have the wind in their sails. And, you know, that was a great movement there. They didn't go for the obvious T-37 behind the cap on the western cap, behind the hill on the behind the building on that western cap. They went just in with the IS-3s. And to be honest, they worked out very well, especially with Hacky doing so much damage in that T-37 from behind. His timing was impeccable off the hill. And Penta just got Synergy in one position. Yes, there was a lot of misses from Synergy, which probably didn't help their case, but I think, you know, Penta's positioning and the way they, you know, they guided Synergy into a trap was fantastic.
And let's look exactly back at that. You know, Synergy did get caught in a trap, and Penta made that aggressive play themselves. And you can see this almost lined up here. And you mentioned it. So many missed shots from Synergy, though. Yeah,
they've already missed a few before this actual replay started. Now, I think Synergy should have probably taken Zamika into that middle area, or got the AMX 5100 actually a place you can drive through where Winnie the Pooh is, and have him come behind and take care of the dead zone Raven. I think they're a little bit too tunnel visioned. They're aiming for one place, and you know, the Penta don't have to do anything. They're very comfortable. They have their positions. You can see again Iliot bouncing on the well-angled armor of the IS-3. And again, you know, Penta's very comfortable here. They got Killer Pit towards the left. The problem for Penta right now is that the dead zone only got 2 shells left. Again, new multi-show all the way in no man's land towards the back for some reason. He is coming to come off reloading that 5100 soon as well. When he does, that's game over for Synergy.
So what should have Synergy done then? Because they kind of put themselves in a bottleneck, in a trap, in a really bad position. How could they have avoided that? Should they just not have read into the play so much?
As I said, I think they should have taken one of the 5100s in the T-32 and actually got control of that middle courtyard.
Right.
I think they put themselves into that firing alley, that death alley, and that's really easy for Hacky just to peek, to make a shell. You know, if you turn your turret on a T-32 or IS-3, it takes so long to traverse 360 degrees that it's just impossible.
You saw Mirlov then almost being taken down as he had to kind of adjust his aim. He was,
and Zamika as well.
Was it Zamika as well? See, there's so many tanks that just kind of went down needlessly there just because of poor planning. It seemed like a knee-jerk reaction. When Stalker barks, maybe they jump a little and have to just go straight into the action. But still, we are waiting for that final possible round here. God only knows what this is going to do to Synergy if Penta pick this up. No one expected this. Now the sides have switched. It's Synergy's turn to attack now. Penta on the defending side. We've seen the 5100s back out to play. Nothing too ingenious, nothing too surprising. But what do we make of Penta here? What can they do? Because they're now defending. How can they still define the battle here?
Well, technically, this is Synergy's better side, worse side even. You know, 50% win ratio on the attacking side on Himmelsdorf. You know, they definitely struggle a little bit. But as I said, you know, this is their stomping ground. This is where Penta should be losing considerably on. You know, but then again, Penta have more experience in defense by quite a margin. 6 matches played, 6 rounds even played on this side, going for a very interesting move. They've done this before, this exact position, and it has caught out Total Best, but first shell does bounce.
Oh, if only they'd got that connected, but those two do. Back-to-back shells coming in, 600 HP, just ripped away from Total Best, and Liliot outstaying his welcome here. He needs to be careful. Raven luckily doesn't have a shell to place, but he does get away. But the game's kind of not up, but the positions are surely well known here, and Penta's going to take a little back for this.
Yeah, they are. I mean, that was a good play. I think Numolcho gets very unlucky that he bounces Total Best on the side of 5100. I mean, 268 penetration, and it gets absorbed by a track. You know, a little bit strange. Could have cost Synergy at least 1 tank, but a good move there from Penta. I'm surprised Synergy got caught out by it because it's pretty typical and something we've seen Penta do before. But you've got Winnie the Pooh now. You've also got Stalker, who's been spotted by Hacky. You can see that 1-versus-1 exchange going on. Both receive a shell. But I don't think Reggie Potato is expecting Winnie the Pooh in that position. Of course, Raging is spotted as well.
Yeah, and Winnie the Pooh could do some work here. He's already connected a 422 bit of HP to chip away from Raging Potatoes. Just kind of chilling out.
Disconnected.
Oh, that's awkward.
That's
really
unfortunate.
unlucky.
Really unfortunate for Penta.
Oh. I would be a Raging Potato at this stage if my net dropped at that moment.
Especially when you're on match point against Synergy after being so confident. I mean, that's obviously the nature of esports, but that's going to put a big dampener now on Penta's hopes and dreams. And Synergy, you could basically just get the best player in the IS3 of Raging Potato down for nothing. It would have been a little bit more fortunate as well for Penta if Winnie the Pooh didn't make that strange movement.
Yeah, I'm a little worried here because Synergy are just going to punish them now, and
yeah.
They're not going. Obviously, you have to play it out. You have to play to win, and Synergy's not going to give them a chance here, really. And just going to do the damage. But this is such a shame, considering they were on match point now. They still will be, but it's going to be frustrating for them. And now this is going to be a big test of their kind of, their teamwork, how mentally they're ready for a game like this, and can they bounce back from losing out on a player like that?
Yeah, that's obviously the big question, the big storyline right now. But Penta's going to get mopped up here. As I said before, Raging Potato disconnecting. Winnie the Pooh going for a little bit of a wander, finds out that Raging Potato is disconnected. And obviously it's game over. Synergy just walking around with this round very easy. It looked like Penta had also given up once Raging Potato got taken down. But, Synergy are going to stay in this game for the grace of the internet gods. Obviously, they haven't yet really successfully beaten Penta. Penta's really beating themselves. With a disconnect here, with a couple of rounds where they made some questionable decisions, but the Synergy are still on the back foot, and Penta are still on match point. Let's hope that disconnect hasn't taken them to heart, as Winnie the Pooh does find Hacky, the last man remaining for Penta.
It's always disappointing to see things like that. It really, it's disheartening, and I hope Penta don't let that get to them. I hope they can just bounce back, say, all right, ignore that. We'll just move on. We'll just ignore what happened. We'll ignore that round, and we'll focus on the next go. They still have another good try at this one to close it down on this map. Now, bearing in mind, Synergy still don't want to go to the deciding map, but they have no choice at this point. But still, this is a tough game for both teams now.
Yeah, this is getting back into Synergy's favor because, as you mentioned, a free round, a big moral boost for them as well, a big moral downer for Penta. And Penta will have to defend once again. I think, Penta were ahead in that game. They took those two 50-100s down to about half HP or less, 40% around there, with a movement that basically caught Synergy unawares. So they had all the cards in their hands. They wanted to play them out, and then, of course, the unfortunate incident happening with Raging Potato. But still, Penta have bounced back so far. They've not been on tilt in every single round. I hope and I believe that they're not going to go on tilt after something which is out of their hands. Control, out of their hands, 100% out of their hands actually comes into fruition. But yeah, so far Penta's been very good, and Synergy just managed to pick up a free win.
Yeah, there's not much to analyze about that round. It's like Synergy didn't do anything special. The start looked like Penta had a slight advantage there, but yeah, it could have gone any which way you would have guessed it. So that round is a complete freebie for Synergy. They're going to pick that one up and take it away. And I believe the rule is after the first shell's fired or something along those lines.
Yeah, the 30-second countdown you can call for a restart. But of course you saw Raging Potato.
He was
already in a pretty standard position in that IS3. It's just when that shot was made onto the back of his tank, the 444, 421 shot, 422 shot. That we realized, okay, he's not actually moving, so he must have disconnected. So I guess we're gonna have to wait for him to get back into game. I'm not sure exactly how long that's gonna take. Might just be a simple case of a router reset.
Words are difficult
Rooster
today.
Reset, interesting one.
That could be a new thing. Just reset your rooster.
Yeah.
I
wish I could reset roosters because they are the ultimate alarm clock.
They are. But
they're a pain.
I'd never had to deal with that.
Really? I always used to go on camping trips to a farm and, just...
Isn't it like at
so
dawn? Like literally in the sunrise?
It's 5 AM. As soon as the crack of dawn hits the sky, it's just cock-a-doodle-doo. And you get woken up.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect impression. Melly, are you laughing at him?
Yes. I mean, that impersonation was beautiful.
You need to be kind to Ollie, alright? He's a special boy.
You can. It's good in one way. If you're one of those kind of people who goes to bed at like 9 p.m.
That's
great.
That's perfect.
If you're like a farmer, it's the perfect alarm clock. But if you're a normal person who goes to bed at like midnight and you have to wake up at 5 a.m. after obviously a few bevies and a barbecue as you do when you go camping, it's a nightmare.
I sense that Twitter will pick this up.
Bevies is probably not a word I'm going to ever use
somehow.
on stream ever again. But
Bevies.
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 It's a Mitch word.
It's a Mitch word.
Yeah.
Mitch
Sounds
just
like
makes
something
words up.
Australian would say.
He would say that it's Australian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The do-si-do. Yes. That's a Mitch word as well.
Okay, this is going a
doesn't
bit
like the
too far.
do-si-do?
People, you have voted. The vote has closed as we entered the second map, of course, and it is stuck with 54% for Penta. So still favoring Penta, still being behind Penta, rooting for them, and they were doing great until the disconnect happens. How much can something like this throw you out of a game, Ollie?
A lot.
Well, we're going to find out how much for Raging Potato at least any second now, because I think the game's ready. So we're going to find out if it really has affected them, and if they can pull themselves together for the final round coming in, pretty much for them. I think that if they lose this round, momentum's gone, and they won't do well in the
Momentum
decider.
went last season.
Oh God.
That was bad. Sorry. Yeah, so we should be able to get back into game. I think Raging Potato is back with us. Why does your face look so disappointed?
Because I'm near you.
Near you went as well. He went to Wargaming League Russia. So, next.
All right, we are back in the game. So Penta still on 4-3, leading this game. Synergy on the attacking side, though. Arguably their weaker side, but still a strong map for these boys. And let's see what Penta can do.
Yeah, so going for this, looks like their third standard play, triple IS3, double 5100, and of course that AMX12T. There is a missing texture, I believe. Problem? Question mark? It's caused by the Observer mod, of course, so we'll have to see how that one gets fixed at some point. Might just have my face planted on that one with the old synchronized swimming
it's an
memes. It's an option for Wargaming to do if they want to permanently put my face in the game. But Stalker getting caught out by a pretty aggressive and quite confident move from Penta.
Yeah, and ironically, you mentioned this was an issue, and I think it was Hacky or the Dead Zone, I can't remember which, was actually up on
Hacky.
this hill as well. It was Hacky. And you're like, well, you know, when the T-37 goes for this more often than not, they can actually take a lot of damage. But Zamika as well, actually taking a shell in this position is quite impressive.
Ooh, but a few back now towards Penta. You saw Hacky receiving one, Killer Pit receiving another. So Penta now a little bit tentative to go forward. So they got the double 5100s there in the K1 area. Now, we've seen this before. Those 5100s aren't supported by these tanks in the 3-line, and that's a big problem. So they've got to keep themselves safe, unspotted, which New Multi Show just about does. Oh, but Iliad's on the side as well. This could be bad news for Penta.
Oh, my heart's going to break if they actually don't win this now.
Oh, the New Multi Show even gets the better of Iliad. Synergy had no idea what's going to happen. So I think you'll see Penta, you know, they put a bit of pressure on. They tried to get the two MX-5100s caught out like they did last round. But now I think they're just going to, you know, make sure they keep that western side completely locked down. That's indicative because the MX-12T is being used. You don't use the 12T instead of the T-37 unless you're playing for the railroads, because it can shoot underneath the rail carts.
So, giving away at least the position of one tank and then kind of the theory crafting behind the rest. Penta's plan is certainly not unknown to Synergy, who still need to find their footing in this one and actually make the bigger move here, but they are edging in towards that western side. It looks like they want to start building towards a play, possibly.
Yeah, it looks like Synergy are itching to go forwards, but they are pretty split up at the moment. I think the logical choice for them would be to... Actually, those 5100s being spotted, but the Dead Zone receives a lot there from the back. He might even fall.
Yeah, he's down to absolutely nothing. 71 HP now left on him. Zamika almost hit the shot, but it's knitting to close him down in the 5100. And this is a disaster. That's a big loss in this one already.
Yeah, he should have stayed where he was. We actually seen 5100s being caught out in that position before, and it's not like Synergy have gone particularly aggressive or actually got themselves into a position which would have, you know, been unusual. It was just a pretty standard play up into J3 area. Now, see Stalker actually starting to put pressure on in the cap as well, which looks like Penta are going to start to make a move and want to go for this. But Messig with a really weird peek onto Zamika just gets caught out, and Synergy using that disconnect now to their advantage and quite clearly ahead.
Yeah, they've not let that affect him at all, whereas Penta seem all out of sorts. Raven will at least take down Stalker, but they've given up complete western side control. They've left one IS-3 kind of down the one line and one near maybe C3. It's really not ideal here. I'm not sure who's in control, because it's certainly not Penta at this point, as Raging Potato takes another shot coming in.
Yeah, but I think, Penta's got a pretty good setup here. The big problem is, of course, Killerpit on his own, doing quite good work against Nidin. I mean, the man is a beast. Hasn't really been playing too well, especially against Virtus Pro. He did pretty badly in that match, but he's got himself back into this game. You can see Synergy are wanting to take down Killerpit, though.
Yeah, Messig is going to be in trouble as well. He's the linchpin on that 3 line already. He's going to be holding them off as much as possible. But if Zamika, Winnie the Pooh, and Total Best all crest this corner, there's not much to be done. And the other IS-3, as you mentioned, is going to be questioned just off on that 1 line. And Messig can't even get involved in this.
The thing is, Penta are holding on right now. They've got more hit points than Synergy, but Synergy look like they want to go forwards and try and close this out.
This is the cross. This is their move. This is their play. They're trying to make it come to any sort of pinnacle here, but Winnie the Pooh's being held up. He's being taken down a hell of a lot, and actually, New Molcho's in the fight finally. A message will finish off Winnie the Pooh. New Molcho finds Total Best, and we're seeing Penta racking up the kills, and that's the power of New Molcho when he plays with the team.
He was in an absolute perfect position to just destroy those Synergy tanks. Killerpit also on the side, keeping Nidin safe and secluded, but Nidin is wanting to go forwards. He is smelling blood. And
Killerpit can't do much here. He's just going to be taken down, so Nidin at least will clear out that 1 line. Now let's take stock of this. It's still a 5v3, but there's a lot of HP here with Synergy. And if they're not careful, if they're not smart about this, Penta could still lose, but they're going to try and take the matter into their own hands. The IS-3s are going to crest down towards Zamika. Not get the ideal shots off, though, only connecting one of the 2. But Milov misses his as well. It's a bit of a cacophony of errors at the moment, but Nidin trying to come around in the backside. Another shot misses, but Messig won't. That's Zamika down and just done with. Raven finds Milov, and now just 1 tank alive, and it's all on Nidin. 833 HP. Synergy on the attack. He can't hide this one out, and it looks like Penta have done enough here.
Yeah, they have. They've gotten themselves out of the doldrums of that disconnect and come into that fight with all guns a-blazing, and they come back actually from a deficit now to a 5 versus 1 situation. Yes, a lot of tanks on low hit points, but Raven still almost 900, and Nidin with a possible 1.8k damage average in that AMX 5100. He doesn't have enough to really kill all tanks as well. Hacky does get found.
I get worried though when they go in 1 by 1. It kind of keeps options open, but Nidin will be chipped away by Messig on 1 flank, and look who's waiting on the other side. New multi-show, perfect positioning again. Shell ready and waiting will deliver. Brilliant play from the man on your screen. Look at that accuracy. 12 shots made, 11 hit, and that is just what can happen when he plays with the team. He's such a big player, and credit where it's due, Penta have actually beaten Synergy. You said at the start of the day, this could be the day they do well, and they met the win conditions you put down. A strong performance on Mines, picking up a good scoreline, at least a 3-1, which they managed, and then map 2, they finally closed it out. This is a very big game for them.
Yeah, and the interesting thing as well, this probably should have been a 5-1 scoreline. They were obviously dominant on Mines, went out that one 3-1, and then on Himmelsdorf we saw that first attacking round by Penta, which they should have won, but they went in 1 by 1 and they got themselves taken down. So that should have been a win for them. And of course we had the Raging Potato debacle where he disconnected, and of course that gifted Synergy a win there as well. So 5-3 is also pretty interesting there for Synergy, and pretty generous for them. I think Penta were just better in every single respect. They continuously tried new things, and it worked. Yeah,
and looking back at one of the highlighted players that I couldn't help but keep my eyes on was New Molcho, and normally he'd be off somewhere in the other side of the map, but this time, look at this play, just brilliant placing.
The thing is, when you make this play, you need a tank on the other side, like there's some buildings there behind Messig. You need a tank there to actually put pressure onto Messig, because he can just peek, he's hull down, no one could do anything against him. And of course, New Multi-Show, he cleans up Messig's and Raven's and Raging Potato's damage. But because Killerpit played on his own. He kept calm. He didn't overreact. He basically stopped Synergy from taking that right side. Again, I said Synergy needed to kill a pit before they made that move. And of course, Penta's positioning was just ready and waiting to take down that full 1-3 line push.
Great game, all in all, coming out. I think both teams, well, maybe not both, but at least Penta can be pleased with their performance. Synergy didn't seem to turn up on mines. That was my biggest point here. That Himmelsdorf, they made at least a feature of it, but mines, they just didn't seem to turn up. They were very quiet. They were very passive. I didn't expect that.
Yeah, there's two things I think Synergy did wrong. First of all, every single round was Penta going forwards. Synergy basically made no movements of their own, and that cost them dearly. Second thing is just the amount of bounces and missed shells. I mean, you could see in that last situation, yes, okay, it was probably already a loss for Synergy, but they're just missing a lot, and a lot of individual mistakes by Nidin, by Mielov. And at the end of the day, if you have 390 damage every 11 seconds from an IS-3, you need to hit the shell, and you got plenty of penetration to do it. Even if it takes you another couple of seconds to get the aim in the perfect angle, wait another couple of seconds.
It's worth it.
So I think Synergy, a lot of individual mistakes, and definitely a little bit of underestimation of Penta.
Yep, I completely and utterly agree with you there. It seems as though they did struggle a little on that one. And well, they suffered at the hands of Penta, simple as that. If you overlook an opponent, you're not going to do well. It's all good and well that they can take down Virtus Pro, but if you can't win the games you're expected to, you're going to be just as low down on that leaderboard as possible. And this will open up the scoreboard now pretty much. This will say to Tornado Rocks, the final game of the day today, who's going to be facing off against Wooser actually. Those points are still yours. They're still up for grabs pretty much to really get up in the rankings, as you can see. Now Synergy, if they'd got those 3 points, they'd have boosted up into the rankings almost in second place, hot on the heels of Supreme.
Yeah, actually for Penta, the big thing for this win is that it actually brings them up into that top six. It puts them between Synergy and Virtus Pro. So 9 points. Obviously Synergy's got 10. It's a decent win for them. I mean, a very respectable one. And I think, it puts behind the woes and the blues of the early season. This is the second half. They have another chance, and they're taking it.
Well, speaking of the rankings, of course, at the top, there's still one team a mile ahead of the rest. It's Supreme, and they're coming up next. But the guys at home were voting the whole way through that game. How did it end?
Well, at the start we were laughing at them, but they were right.
Yep.
As per usual, as we're used of our community, of our awesome community, which participates a lot in our team votes. And the next vote is of course up since, well, it closes after the first map, and after that the second vote comes up for people to participate in, and we have 3 of them in total. So people participate 3 times, a chance of getting one of 3 bonus codes each, and the only thing you have to do is heading over to facebook.com/WGLEU and clicking on the team vote button or on the post on our timeline, getting forward to an app where you have to just follow the steps and you will do fine. I know you guys, and oh well, I was about to say something very smart, but I forgot.
Impossible.
Thank you, Ollie. That's why we're heading into a short break, and we will be back with Strong versus Supreme.